Hi guys, it's Ray here from City Fan TV, and today I've got a very, very special guest. His name is Mac. Now, Mac is a City fan since the Roberto Mancini days. He's a student at the moment in Hong Kong. He's a football writer who likes the technical side of the game, and I would call him a football analyst because he's contributed to Total Analysis, the website. Go and check that out. Very, very detailed, comprehensive analysis of players and strategies and tactics. And he's also contributed to Barca Time. So I think that's a very good CV for anybody. So, Mac, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Hi, Ray. Thank you for inviting me here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Diego Carlos. I'm going to give a little introduction, and then Mac's the guy with the knowledge. So he's going to kill us with his knowledge about Diego Carlos. City fans are well aware that right now, and all summer long, the centre back name on everybody's lips, and the talk has been about Kalidou Koulibaly. We've seen the issues, obviously, with Napoli. Very hard to negotiate with. They want a certain amount of money. City want to pay, obviously, a lot less, and hopefully they'll meet somewhere in the middle. But the longer it goes on, the worry is that a deal might not be reached, and City will have to look at other targets. Now, the way City operates is they have a main target, and that is Koulibaly. Okay, the Manchester City-based journalists have said that. But City also have a second, third, and fourth target in case they can't get the number one. Other names that have been mentioned in the past are Pau Torres, Ruben Diaz, and another one has been mentioned recently. I think last week it was rumoured that the Chico Begiristain was in Barcelona. And one of the reasons he was in Spain was to talk about Diego Carlos and possibly do a deal for him. And very briefly, Diego Carlos is 27 years old. He's Brazilian, and he's currently playing at Sevilla. His background is he played in Portugal, he's played in France for 3 seasons, and he's played 1 season at Sevilla, crowned off winning the Europa League. He's 6'1" tall, which is 180 in the high 180s. So he's got a bit of height on him. So those are his basic stats. So I'm going to ask you to start with, Mac, just to give us a background on Diego Carlos and how he plays.
I think there's a very, very similar player to Carlos at City right now. Because if you look at his career, as you mentioned, the guy who is very similar to Carlos is Nicolas Otamendi. Because if you record their career, Nico also played in Porto, and he has a very, very bright year at under Nuno's Valencia, 1 season in La Liga.
Yeah.
And then the next season, he was signed by Manuel Pellegrini's City. And if Carlos joined City, the career path is going to be very, very similar. And I think in terms of the style and the way they develop as a player, they are very similar players because Carlos, I'm sure he's not the tallest player in the league, unlike Laporte, but a very, very special point from this player is he's a right-footed player, and I think City is needed a right-footed central defenders right now because Ake is a left-footed player, and usually the team wants one left centre back and one right centre back, so they are finding a replacement of Nico or John Stones or Dino as a partner for Laporte. The names you mentioned, they are left-footed player, most Umtiti as well. So I think this player is quite comfortable on the ball, but not a very, very good passer because as a viewer, he do not have to do the same task like City defenders because maybe at Spain he has Banega, he has Jean Jordan or Fernando, or maybe his partner Koundé or Navas or Reguilon to do the stuff to bring the ball forward. But at City, the task is different because maybe he needs to make more those good passes to hit into the final third or maybe carry the ball forward a bit. Because I have a few stats on Carlos' progressive runs. It means the ability of the player to bring the ball forward. And for Carlos, he has, on average, he has 0.25 each game. And you compare the stat with the City players. John Stones have 2.8, Nico 1.42, Daniel 2.27, and Laporte 3.71. So you can see the number is it's very insignificant comparing to the City players. So this is a point he has to improve if he comes to City.
Is that simply because, or mainly because he's playing at Sevilla? It's a different style to City. I mean, Sevilla want possession, but not in the same level. City want 70, 75, 80% possession. And in that case, your defenders have to do a lot of passing of the ball. And if it's different at Sevilla, and if he's got great players around him, like you've mentioned, maybe he doesn't. It's like he just gets it and passes it to them, rather than carries that ball himself. But do you think he has the potential to move forward at City and do that same sort of role that City need?
I think it's more relevant to the mentality, because I think he has to adapt to the new league, to the new style of play. I think if Nico, because somebody may think I use Nico to describe him is a very negative statement, but I don't think so, because Nico have a very good season in the Centurion campaign, if you remember. It's excellent at January, that's how we call him. So I think the problem is the consistency of the player, because at City it's very, very difficult to play every single game. You have to, maybe sometimes you have to start on the bench first, or sometimes you cannot make into the squad list unless you are as good as Laporte. But you have to adapt, because you can't just play every single game in the league. And because for the players, if they started the game, they feel like the top of the world, and if they cannot make into the list, and maybe the mentality or the feeling will be a little bit down. So he have to adapt that he is into a very, very big squad, a good squad, and under Pep he has to learn to be a part of the team. So I think if he can do that, he can. Yeah, I can see his potential to become at least the level Nico played in 2017 to 2018.
You mentioned Nicolas Otamendi, and some City fans do him a disservice, because in that Centurion season, Nicolas Otamendi was the main centre-back. He featured 35 times out of 38 in the league. And people forget that. They criticise him. In the season before, he was diving in, and people wanted City to get rid of him, get somebody else. And that Centurion season, he was fabulous. And okay, he's getting a little bit older. He's not as fast. He maybe a little bit rash again, because as you slow down, sometimes you dive in because you can't catch somebody with the pace. So one thing for that's really important, I think, is Diego Carlos's fitness. And briefly looking at the stats, he's almost an ever-present. When he was in France, he was almost never present for Nantes in Ligue 1. 34 games in one season, 28 the next, 35 the next in the league. When he was in Estoril in Portugal, 31 games, and in La Liga for Sevilla, 35 games and 8 in Europe. So he's played a lot of games, and for me, that's what you want. I want a player who can play a lot of games, stay fit, doesn't get too many suspensions. I mean, you can't play 34 or 35 games in a season. If you're sent off 3 or 4 times, it's not going to happen. So you'd like to feel that he controls himself a little bit better than Otamendi. So you're saying he could complement Laporte there. I think there's 3 things that City fans, and I'll mention them one at a time, that City fans are really interested in is, can the player hit the ground running? Now, by that I mean, does he need that year to acclimatise to the Premier League? Like we've seen Mahrez, his first season, it was in and out, and second season much better. Bernardo Silva, first season, he had a lot of appearances, but his second season was awesome. We've seen with Rodri, he's got better as the season's gone on. Joao Cancelo was struggling at the start. At the end of the season, he looks like he's almost made that left-back spot his own. And I'm going to mention Laporte. City do not buy players in January, because the worry is they're not going to hit the ground running. They're not going to be able to walk into the team and do the business. And the only person they bought in January has been Aymeric Laporte, and they've said, because we were confident of his attitude, it wouldn't be an issue. Buy him in January, and he sailed through that Centurion season, the 9 games he played. So the question is, can Diego Carlos do the same? He's 27 years old. I don't think we want a guy coming in, struggling the first season. If Liverpool are going to put in another 98, 99-point season, you can't afford too many mistakes. You can't afford too many defeats to do that. So can he come in, hit the ground running, and fit into the side?
I think it's uncertain, still very uncertain, because, as I said, because his major career is not in the major leagues in the world, because just one season of brightness in La Liga. But I think City have a lot of option at that position. If you count Ake, who was a Premier League defender at Bournemouth, but in overall, I think I'm not sure whether Carlos is the most good fit for City, because the system will be a little bit different from team. For example, the high line of City, they set the defensive line at the halfway line, and Sevilla do that. They did that in the Europa League knockout stages, and I think a lot of media already reported there's a little bit disappointment maybe, or the lowered price tag because of his several penalty conceded.
Yeah.
But I think the underlying issue behind this is not the penalty, it's the opponents they faced. Maybe they have Sevilla faced Wolves, faced Manchester United, and those are opponents that he's going to face in the Premier League if he's going to City. As well as the final, Lukaku's penalty. And this is the point which get me concerned, because I would hope a player that can cope with the high line and against those Premier League pacey wingers, pacey forwards very well. But I think Carlos might be struggled a bit in that position, and there's a little bit of concern if you're counting on this.
Yeah, another issue is pace, because looking at City at the back, we've had the part we saw against Lyon. He was outstripped very easily. Against Arsenal, we saw Garcia outpaced so easily. When Fernandinho's been there, he's a great player, reads the game so well, but he's 35, he's getting older. We haven't got a lot of pace. Our pace at the back comes from Kyle Walker, who has these what we call brain farts, where he's not concentrating on the game, and his pace is lost by being, we saw against Lyon, by not focusing on the game, playing someone onside, and then not chasing back. So what is Diego Carlos' pace like? Is he, we know that Koulibaly's got a fair bit of pace. He's going to be the fastest centre-back at City if he comes. How would Diego Carlos fit in? Do you think he's faster than the players we've already got at centre-back?
No, I don't think so, because if you watch, I think there's a lot, because in the Europa League, he conceded a penalty because he's not quick enough.
Okay.
And the player get into the box and he has no choice, or maybe panic, and he just get them down and they concede the penalty. So I don't think he's the quickest player in the team. But if you are counting on Ake is a quicker player. It's good to know. It's good to know.
I think obviously these are important things, and obviously we've heard the rumours, and this is now we're going away from statistics. We're going into opinion and more speculation. But what do you think about the veracity or the likelihood of these rumours? What is there any truth in them? Do you think City are seriously looking at Diego Carlos?
I don't think so, because usually I think if City really wants Carlos, I think he will go after Carlos, even maybe same time with Ake or Koulibaly. But of course, I think it's not the top priority, because the news only comes out after they think there's some problem with the chairman of Napoli. And I think Koulibaly is always being the top priority of the team, and Carlos is not that guy. And it's a bit difficult for City, because I don't think there's many options available, centre-backs options available in Europe. And even though we have money to spend, I don't think they have I don't think they have a lot of choice, and let alone they are good choices.
Yeah.
For this position, I want City to have a very reliable player like Thiago Silva or Ramos at that position, because if we are thinking clearly, you can recall those errors in the important times in the knockout stages in the UEFA Champions League. Because I think City is very very solid and very stable enough in the Premier League, and except the last season. And if you recall the errors we made in the knockout stages, Fernando at Paris 2016 and 2017, Johnstone and Falcao. 2018, if you count Nico, he make a little bit mistake against Liverpool, and 19 and 20 is Laporte. I think there's a problem maybe within the mentality of City players when they go to the big stages. I don't think they are playing in the full caliber, and they maybe panic a bit, nervous a bit, and that's the room they need. That's the gates they need to break through. And I wish the player that is coming, you can counting on him in those big stages. You know he will play well. Yeah, just like the example I have given, Ramos and Thiago Silva. But I think it's very difficult given the options on the market.
Yeah, like you say, Thiago and Ramos, they've got that age, they've got that experience, they've been there at a high level. Obviously, Ramos especially. But those players, obviously, the issue is, by the time they've got that experience, they're kind of too old. And that's why everybody's looking at Koulibaly, because he's got that good experience playing 6 years at Napoli, it's a decent level, and he's only 29, rather than getting someone who's 33 or 35 years old. With all the best will in the world, I can't see Thiago Silva being having express pace, and that's just something that we need. We just need a world-class defender, like, dare I say it, Virgil van Dijk, someone of that caliber, who's good in the air, good on the ground, got good pace, and overall has got a really good game, and in the big moments steps up. It's my opinion anyway. I'm going to say a massive thank you to Mac for this Diego Carlos analysis of Diego Carlos. I think from both of us, we would say there are probably better targets out there for City, more suitable targets, younger targets with more potential, who are faster. I mean, talking about it like that, there's nothing going for Diego Carlos. But if you were saying, let's do a max out of 10 as a suitability for City, as a player you'd want at City, how many marks out of 10 would you give him?
Maybe 6 or 7 only.
I was going to go for 3 or 4. Well, the thing is, for me, I want Koulibaly all day long, and if I don't get Koulibaly, I want Upamecano, or I'm not sure Diego Carlos is the man for me. Part of it is, if he was so good, why hasn't somebody else got him already? Why is he at Sevilla?
Yeah.
Sevilla a decent side, but why isn't there's no talk, and his price tag would be like Koulibaly's? But as I said, once again, a massive thank you to Mac for this contribution, and we'll be speaking to Mac hopefully several more times about other players where he's done analysis, and I will be speaking to him about one player who, when I saw the analysis, my jaw dropped, and I thought, I've got to speak to this guy, and we'll do a few more interviews like this. So once again, Mac, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.